Welcome to the University of Arkansas Career Development Center's presentation on using social media professionally. As you can see here, the average person has a 7-second attention span, while the average goldfish has an 8-second attention span. It's incredibly difficult in this day and age, particularly on social media, to keep people's attention. And so learning about why and how you can do that in a professional manner is incredibly important. So why else are we looking at social media? Well, it's important to present a positive picture of yourself. You can use it to research companies and to network, but social media can also be used to increase your own professional knowledge. So looking at social media in all of its forms is important in a professional capacity. 6 of the most visited social media sites in the U.S. are those seen here: Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, which is by far the most popular, Instagram, Google+, and LinkedIn. We'll devote a significant portion of today's presentation to discuss LinkedIn because it is the only business-oriented social networking site. You can include your resume or profile on your LinkedIn account. You can use LinkedIn to find jobs and internships, but it's also primarily known for being a place to network and connect with people in your chosen field or areas of interest. Every second, 2 new members join LinkedIn. That's like the entire enrollment of the Ivy League joining LinkedIn every day. And there are more than 40 million students and recent graduates on LinkedIn, and they're LinkedIn's fastest growing demographic because students are understanding and realizing more fully why LinkedIn can be beneficial. Recruiters and hiring managers use LinkedIn a great deal. In fact, if we look at all companies and organizations out there, the small to the very large, 88% of companies will use social media for recruitment. And of those, 89% use LinkedIn. It is by far the largest recruitment tool in the social media sphere. What should your personal brand look like? In fact, what is a personal brand? It comes down to 2 areas. It's how you market yourself to potential employers. So thinking about your unique skills or characteristics, those areas that make you stand out, can be very beneficial. It's also your professional reputation. As Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon, says, your personal brand is what people say about you when you leave the room. So what do you want people to remember? What do you want people to know about you in a professional capacity? So how do you build that brand? There are 4 questions you can ask yourself to put together your personal brand or your personal branding statement. Who am I? So maybe you are an architecture student. What sets me apart from others in my field? In this instance, maybe a student wants to use their skills to increase development in low-income neighborhoods. Who do I want to connect with? This student might want to connect with families in low socioeconomic areas. And why do I want to connect with that audience? To create affordable housing and safer communities. Your picture, your photo on LinkedIn is incredibly important. Your profile is 7 times more likely to be viewed if you have a photograph. So we want to find a picture or have a picture taken that is more professional looking, not something that you would post on just any social media platform. Let's look at some types of photos that would be inappropriate or would be wrong to include. First of all, you want to have a photo. Make sure that your photograph isn't too far away or that your face isn't hidden. We want to be able to see you clearly and not have to compete with your background. But too close is also a problem. A logo is fine. In fact, a logo can be good as long as you're utilizing it as your background on your resume page rather than in lieu of a photograph. Group shots are also nice, but again, not for LinkedIn, because in this instance, we aren't sure which person you are. A family photo might tell us who you are, but it's also more personal. And we want to keep personal out of LinkedIn. We want to keep those personal aspects away from your professional and business-oriented networking sites. Make sure that the picture is of good quality, that it is appropriate, and even if we're using a photo that we find funny or that we find interesting, it still isn't you. The University of Arkansas Career Development Center has LinkedIn photo sessions. You can schedule a free 10 to 15 minute session where our photographer will take your picture, send it to you via email, and you can upload that picture and use it in any capacity, including LinkedIn. A big part of your LinkedIn profile will include your online resume. In some ways, this is very similar to your paper resume, but there are a few differences. Your LinkedIn profile should include a strong headline. It's the very first thing that people will see and the very first thing that people will read. Something like University of Arkansas student isn't specific enough because it only names you as one of over 27,000 other people. Be more intentional. Talk about your major. Talk about what you're excited about, things that you've done in the past, things that you are hoping to do in the future. But keep in mind that you only have a small number of characters in order to do this. Your summary is like your headline, but it provides more information. This, in some ways, is very similar to your summary of qualifications or profile in your resume. It describes what motivates you, where your skills lie, and what you're hoping to do next. In addition, you'll also include your experience, both your work experience, any volunteer experience, which we'll see later. But what would you want a person who's reading your profile to know about you? On a resume, we like to tailor your experience section to fit the position for which you're applying. However, on LinkedIn, you can have various recruiters viewing your profile within a short period of time, so you can't necessarily tailor it to a specific job, although you can tailor it to an industry or type of company or position. You'll also want to list your organizations, both on and off campus, that you've been part of. And then, of course, your education, your current degree at the University of Arkansas. You're welcome to include your high school information if you are still in your freshman year. However, once we get past your freshman year, you want to take your high school information out. In addition, depending on your specific experience, there may be other sections, other types of headings you want to include. These might be volunteer experience, especially if they highlight or showcase skills that you've learned that would be transferable to the area in which you're hoping to work. Honors and awards, ways that you've been recognized, scholarships, that sort of thing. Relevant courses you've taken while here at the University of Arkansas. And then projects in those classes or projects that you've completed outside your classroom instruction. Make sure that you have a professional email address. Something that you set up that you thought would be fun, especially to share with friends, may not be the best impression to give a hiring manager or recruiter. You're welcome to use your University of Arkansas email address, but keep in mind that your UARK email account will be deleted roughly 250 days after you're no longer a student. So in your senior year, we recommend transitioning to a more permanent email address like a Gmail account or a Yahoo account That way, if your resume stays on file with an organization for up to a year, you won't have an outdated email address on that resume. Finally, LinkedIn can be a great way to build your network. As part of your online profile, you can list skills and expertise, and others can endorse you for some of those things that you're considered to be good at. Managers, professors, or classmates who've worked with you can write a recommendation, and you can do the same for them. It helps lend extra credibility to your strengths and skills. The Find Alumni tool on LinkedIn allows you to connect with University of Arkansas alumni and students. You can break this down by where they live, where they work, what they do, what they studied, what they're skilled at. So you could find people who majored in your same area or who are currently doing the things of interest to you, connect with those people, ask them questions, conduct an informational interview to find out what they like about their job, how they got started, what they wish they had known when they were a student. So hopefully you can get some good information, but it's also a way to start building connections in your areas of interest. The best way to be able to connect with people is to be a member of the same group, which is why we recommend joining groups like the University of Arkansas or University of Arkansas Alumni Group, or the Career Development Center has its own page that you can follow and a group that you can join. Going back to some of those other social media sites, we'll spend a little time talking about two of them. Close to half of all job seekers use Twitter in their job search. You can follow institutions and industry experts so that you keep up with new information and new topics of interest within your field. But it's also a way to find out about potential job and internship possibilities, because some organizations will have a Twitter account solely focused on their recruiting efforts. When you're using that Twitter account in a professional way, make sure that you're using a professional picture and add a link to your online resume on LinkedIn. You want to show that you're involved in this area. You want to show that you are paying attention. So tweet about industry topics, tips, and advice. As far as Facebook is concerned, again, because it is the most popular social media site, use it in a professional manner as well. You want to like employers or follow leaders in your industry. In the About section, you can use the first 140 characters to describe yourself professionally and make that visible to the public. Again, use a professional picture. Facebook allows you to conduct a Friends of My Friends search. So let's say that you are interested in working for PepsiCo. You can search Friends of My Friends who work for Pepsi, which might tell you that your friend Chris is friends with Lily, who works at Pepsi. So you could then go to your friend Chris and ask him to introduce you to Lily, who is the employee working at Pepsi. It's a way for you to connect and to start networking, again, with people who are in certain fields or who work for particular organizations. And last but not least, and this is true for all social media, clean up your account. Privacy settings are no guarantee that there won't be some sort of glitch, and also screenshots live forever. So just because you think your account is on lockdown, that doesn't mean others still can't see what you post. According to a survey, more employers are finding reasons not to hire candidates because of their social media presence. So what are the top 3 negative behaviors mentioned by employers? Provocative or inappropriate photos and or information about a candidate drinking or using drugs, and then bad-mouthing previous employers or just being generally negative about work. So let's look at some examples of what not to do. Sometimes the problem is a personal tweet. In this instance, this person is not only using a great deal of profanity, they're also publicly calling out Clark Hunt, who is the CEO of the Kansas City Chiefs organization. This person, this student, is tweeting about being drunk, and not just tweeting about her alcohol consumption, she's also unapologetic about it. So an employer might be concerned about what she would do in a work environment. In this instance, this tweet that says, "I think math is a lie, physics is a lie, if we use this in real life we'd look dumb," this person might be joking, they may be sarcastic or facetious, but because we don't know them, it's hard to tell what their motivation is behind this tweet and why they're choosing to send it out into the Twitter universe. Other types of tweets may be personal or what we think are personal, but we're talking about our work environment. For example, this tweet says, "Hurry up Friday, I want money." So essentially what you're saying to a new potential employer is, "I'm only in this for the paycheck." And that may be true, but it isn't something that we want to tweet about. This person says, "I hate my job, over and over and over." And again, we're giving maybe the wrong impression to potential employers. And this person says, "I start this job tomorrow with several thumbs down." So even though they haven't started the position yet, what they're saying to their new employer is, "I don't want to be there." Now sometimes because traditional students are younger, they may be asked to take on the role of managing social media platforms for their new organization. The assumption is that younger people have a skill set within social media that older employees may not. With that, it's important to keep your personal and that professional account separate. The official Goldman Sachs Twitter account, Goldman Sachs being a financial institution, a couple of years ago someone tweeted, "Cash rules everything around me, dollar dollar bill y'all," which is a reference to a Wu-Tang Clan song from the 1980s. This tweet from the Bed Bath & Beyond official Twitter account says, "Scored 2 cases of aromatherapy bath salts at the loading dock. Party in my crib tonight." This person not only mixed up their personal and professional Twitter accounts, they also admitted to stealing from their employer. And in the case of the Apple official Twitter account, we have this tweet. "OMG, so easier tweeting on Samsung 4.5-inch screen. Hashtag fat thumbs, hashtag shh." This person was tweeting out that a different product was better than their company's. So let's look at some consequences for some of these things, or these types of tweets. This comes from a teacher in California. She tweets, "So happy to be done with school for 10 days, but especially to be away from the ones who truly try my patience and make my trigger finger itchy." When asked about it, she said that it had no relevance to her teaching because it was personal, because it was private. But anything that you tweet can potentially get out there. Every single one of the tweets that we're using here were deleted within a few hours after they were posted, but someone took a screenshot, and again, screenshots live forever. In this case, this teacher received a written reprimand and is on indefinite leave pending further investigation. We have a student, fortunately not from the University of Arkansas, who tweeted, "Cisco just offered me a job. Now I have to weigh the utility of a fatty paycheck against the daily commute to San Jose and hating the work." As it turns out, Employees at Cisco also are on Twitter. They saw the tweet, and the University of California student received notice within 24 hours that her job offer had been revoked. Here we have an applicant to the Ivy HBA program. She tweets, "This Ivy application makes me want to projectile vomit into the head of admissions' mouth." The official Ivy account tweets back 2 words, "duly noted." And she responds, "I take it back, OMG, accept me please." But as it turns out, she was not accepted to the school. So what can we post? Look for content that adds value, celebrates successes, supports others. Look for things that align with your career and long-term goals. Where you want to proceed with caution, any gut reactions and emotions. If something's important to you, you can still tweet it a few hours later, but give yourself time to calm down. Give yourself time to think through, because again, once you put it out there, there's no guarantee it won't live forever. Things you do not want to post: attacks of any kind, racy or inappropriate media, gossip, or confidential information. And confidential information doesn't just have to be things like social security numbers. It can also be your location. If you tweet that you're out with friends at a restaurant and tweet from the restaurant or post from the restaurant, you've just told people not only where you are, but where you aren't. So feel free to tweet about a good time that you had with your friends or what you enjoyed doing, but wait until a few hours later when you're no longer there and you can tweet about what you did that evening or what you did that afternoon, as opposed to what you're currently doing. For more information about using social media professionally, you can contact the University of Arkansas Career Development Center. In addition to our LinkedIn profile picture sessions, you can also schedule an hour-long appointment with one of our counselors for a LinkedIn profile review to help you determine what's appropriate, what is not, and how to transition your paper resume to something that's more appropriate and will help you stand out on LinkedIn.